Howdy there, my young scholars. I hope your day is going well for you today. Today we're working on 7.7 more equations of proportional relationships. This is your assignment. We don't have a notes page for today, so again, we're working from our assignment. I will be doing the entire problem number 1 with you, and then I'll give you a couple of little tips on the rest of the problems. So let's get started with problem number 1. It says, the graph below shows the relationship between snacks and calories. Use the graph to complete the table. All right, so you've got the graph here, and then down here you have your table, and you've got some columns. You've got a column for number of snacks, a column for calories. Here we have ordered pair, and here's just a sentence talking about what that point represents. So we're supposed to take the information from the graph and put it into the table. So let's take a look at the graph and see what we can find. All right, well, look at that first dot. It's not really on a clear intersection point. It's actually really hard to tell where the dot is in terms of the y value. You can tell it's at 1 for the x value, but if you follow it over here to the y-axis, who knows what that is? It's above 100 and below 150. Maybe it's 120, but are we sure? We're not sure enough to put it in our table. So let's keep figuring out how to solve this problem. Let's look at 2. Follow that up, and oh man, when you follow this one over to the y-axis, it's kind of like here at like 245 or something, but am I sure? No, I'm not sure. Let's keep going. What about that dot? Am I going to be sure about this one? No, you see how it's kind of above this line? It's not sitting right on the line. I need something that is exact so I can use it as good solid information. Is this one exact? No, it's just below this line that represents 500. So we know it's under 500 and above 450. But we don't know exactly what it is. What about this one? Oh, finally, we have something that is exactly at a nice intersection point, a nice convenient point there. So I'm going to start with that bit of information for my table. So let's find our x value, follow it down this way. It looks like that is x equals 5. So that's going to be this point right here. Now let's follow it over here, and the y value is going to be 600. So let's record that. 600. Okay, finally we have something to work with. So our ordered pair is going to be, it's going to be x comma y with the parentheses around it, right? So we're going to have 5 comma 600. Okay, now it says, what does this mean basically? So with the 0 snacks having 0 calories, they said 0 snacks have 0 calories. Well, in this case, how many snacks do we have? 5. And how many calories do they have? 600. So what we're going to write is 5 snacks have, you guessed it, 600 calories. Okay, so once we have this and we know that our information here is proportional, and by the way, how do we know it's proportional? Because these form together to make a straight line. Not only is it a straight line, but it's a line that goes through 0. So we know that this is proportional, which is very helpful. So what we can do down here is we can just find the unit rate and use that to fill out the rest of our table. So how do we find the unit rate? We're going to take the y value and divide it by the x value. So it's going to be 600 divided by 5. And that is going to give us, feel free to use your calculator. If you know it off the top of your head, that is awesome too. It's going to be 120 for the unit rate. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to go ahead and write unit rate. What does that mean? That means where x equals 1, when you have just one thing, in this case, one snack, which would be right here, where that happens, your y value is going to be 120. So I can just do that, which is super helpful. And now if I know that one snack has 120 calories, how many calories will 2 snacks have? Well, I'm just going to add another 120 to that. I know that 120 plus 120 is 240. And it's kind of like, and then when we go to the third one, we're going to add another 120. So each time we're going to be adding 120, which is a lot like just counting by 12s with this extra 0 on the end. So 120, 240, I'm going to go 360, 420. And if it's easier for you to just keep hitting 120 plus 120 on your calculator, that's totally fine also. In fact, I have a mistake here. 480. Whew. Gotta catch these things. All right, good. So now let's just kind of look up here at the graph and make sure that it makes sense with what we're seeing so that we didn't make any mistakes, like that 420 or whatever I almost put there. So 1 comma 120. Let's see if that looks right for this point. So at 1, we know that we're here below 150 and above 100. That definitely looks like 120. Yeah, that works. What about 240 for 2? We should be just below 250, so that's good. What about 360? All right, this line is the 350 line, and we're just above it, so 360 makes sense there too. What about here for 4? That dot is just below 500, so 480 was correct. And I guess at this point I would have caught my math error if I hadn't caught it before, so that's always helpful to double check. And we already have 600. We know that one. Okay, so let's write our ordered pairs. It's just going to be x comma y, so the x is 1, comma, 120, and then you surround it in parentheses. Here, 2 comma 240, and so on. You have 3 comma 360, and then you have 4 comma 480. And then to write in a sentence what all of these points mean, what they represent, well, it looks like one snack has 120 calories. So one, and now I'm going to get lazy, and I'm just going to use my little quotation marks things. So one snack has 120 calories. Okay, 2 snacks have 240 calories. 3 snacks have 360 calories, and 4 snacks have 480 calories, and of course we've already done it for 5 snacks. Okay, it looks like we have our table filled out, and now we just need to go down here to problem number A. Okay, it says if C represents the number of calories and S represents the number of snacks, write an equation that shows the relationship between C and S. And now I'm remembering that I wanted to do something down below the table, so I shouldn't have written here. So I'm going to pause and get my whiteout. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I got rid of that. Don't you love whiteout? Greatest invention, my goodness. Okay, so what I did is I added, as you can see, an extra row onto my table. Now that's not quite required in this problem, but you'll notice over here in problem number 2, you're going to do something similar, so just keep it in mind that you'll be using this in the next problem. Okay, so it says, let's read it again. If C represents the number of calories, okay, so C is going to represent the calories, okay. And S represents the number of snacks, so S is this. Write an equation that shows the relationship between C and S. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and write an S here in this blank. And then in this blank, we're going to show how we use S to figure out what goes here. So here's what I mean. What am I going to multiply each of these numbers by to get the Y value? 1 times what equals 120? And 2 times what equals 240? And 3 times what equals 360? It should be the same number in each case because all of this data is proportional. So 1 times what equals 120? 120, right? Now let's just double check. Let's see, 4 times 120 should equal 480. Grab your calculator if you don't want to trust your mental math. 4 times 120, and look, 480. So we're pretty sure that each time you need to multiply this number by 120 to get this number. So that's what we're going to write here. We're going to write this times 120. We don't usually write S times 120. What we usually write is 120S, right? So that's what we're going to write. Okay? So now we've just defined the calories in terms of the snacks. And if we were going to write that as an ordered pair, it would be S, comma, 120S. And then you could even do this. You could write S snacks have 120S calories. So it really works however you want to do it there. Now let's go ahead and read this again because that's not really what the problem is asking. They want us to write an equation that shows the relationship between C and S. Okay, so C, that's the calories. How do you find the number of calories using S? It's right there. It's 120S. You multiply it by 120, right? So you would say C, the calories, is equal to 120S. Okay, so that's all you have to do there. I believe, let me read it one more time. Yep, that's all it's asking us to do. So calories equals 120 times S. Okay, question B, what is the unit rate? Now we were talking about that a second ago, but I wound up whiting it out, so we're going to talk about it again. It says highlight the unit rate in your table, graph, and equation. So a couple different ways to find the unit rate. If you want just like a one prepackaged, always will work formula for how to find the unit rate, take one of your y values and divide it by the corresponding x value. So you could do 240 divided by 2, or you could do 600 divided by 5. Or you could do 120 divided by 1. Of course, this is the simplest one because anything divided by 1 is just itself. You don't even need your calculator. So what is 120 divided by 1? It's 120. So I know that my unit rate is 120. That's the unit rate. Now it says to highlight. If you have a highlighter, grab it. If not, just make it work with a circle or whatever. Highlight the unit rate in your table. Okay, so that's going to be where x equals 1, right there. I think I need a new highlighter. Highlight it on your graph. Okay, 1 and 120, that's this right here, that dot. And highlight it in your equation. So in our equation, here's the 120 right there. I'm just going to highlight that. So we have completed part B. So that's it for question number 1. There's not much else I want to go over with you, but let me show you just a couple little things. In problem number 3, what were we going to do? The number of pictures are shown on a graph. Okay, so you're going to use the data on this graph to complete the table. So just in case you're unsure about how to do that, I wanted to walk through a couple of those dots with you. So I'm going to go, you can use this as your first dot or that as your first dot. I'm going to start with 0, 0. So at 0 days, there are 0 pictures taken. That makes sense. But at 1, okay, which axis is this? This is the days. And we also know it's the x-axis because it's horizontal, right? And we know this is the x because it's on the left, and that one's the y because it's on the right. So at 1 day, I'm following this dot down here to 1. At 1 day, now to figure out how many pictures were taken on that 1 day, I'm going to follow the dot over to the y-axis, and it's going to tell me 5 pictures were taken on that day. Okay, so that takes care of that dot. What about this dot? Let's follow it down. On which day was that? Okay, 2 days. So I'm going to write that under days, and then I'm going to follow it all the way over to the y-axis. It looks like 10. So 10 pictures were taken on 2 days or after 2 days. And you're just going to continue in that manner to fill out that table. Okay, and let's see. I think there was one more thing I wanted to show you. Oh yeah, I just felt like the wording was a little tricky here. So in problem number 4, it says 1 yard contains 3 feet. So like for me, I'm really tempted to put the 3 here next to the 1, but you gotta look at your labels really carefully. 1 yard, this is the yards, contains 3 feet. So make sure you're going down to 3 where the feet is and put your 1 there. So just a little trickiness there. And that is all I have for you today. Have fun working on this. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time. Bye.